if Trevor Lawrence goes somewhere else in the NFL, I believe he's going to have tremendous success. It's not an accident. We continue to see guys that were drafted move other places and have success. Sometimes you just need a total change of scenery. And I know, Caroline, he's got that with another head coach and another offensive coordinator. I understand all of those things that Jacksonville's done whatever they can to give him the whatever. I just know that Trevor Lawrence, I stood on the sidelines covering him in college football when people said he should sue to change the rules so that he could get into the NFL early because he's that type of prospect. You don't go from being as talented as he has been to just an absolute hack without a team trying to ruin you in the process. So shame on the Jags for not making the most of it. But if Trevor Lawrence goes somewhere, he's going to succeed. That's all I have to like. To me, that's clear. We agree on this?
I wouldn't say he's an absolute hack, but he definitely has not reached number one overall pick expectations. I think we also need to remember, and I understand that Trevor Lawrence has been in the league for a hot minute, but Trevor Lawrence was also the unfortunate beneficiary of coaching by Urban Meyer. I think the Jags hiring Urban Meyer was the worst hire in the history of the National Football League. And frankly, I don't even really think that it's close. Urban Meyer was nothing but an absolute abomination in Jacksonville. So to get to that kind of start in your NFL career, look, Trevor Lawrence isn't the first overall quarterback or young quarterback to have his head coach fired in his first season. I understand that we've had two of that this year with Cam Ward and Jackson Dart in Tennessee and New York respectively. But I think Trevor Lawrence just got off to such a brutal start to no fault of his own in the NFL that, yeah, I'm with you that maybe sometimes a change of perspective and a change of scenery can be refreshing for a quarterback. Maybe Trevor Lawrence just is who he is. Maybe Trevor Lawrence just was really great in college and overly hyped in the draft process, and Trevor Lawrence is just Kirk Cousins for the rest of his career. But I don't think it's crazy to consider that a change of scenery would be beneficial for him, because we've seen it with Daniel Jones, we saw it with Sam Darnold, we've seen it with Baker Mayfield, we've seen it with Geno Smith. The list goes on and on and on of reclamation projects in this league.
I think it's important to note Trevor Lawrence just turned 26. So he is Daniel Jones.
Oh my gosh.
He just turned 26. Yeah, just turned 26 last
month. How old is Diego Pavia? Is he 25?
I think he's 25, yeah.
And Trevor Lawrence has been in the league for several years. He has a second contract in the league, and he's a year older than Diego Pavia.
Tyler Shuck of the Saints is older than Trevor Lawrence right now. So, Trevor Lawrence just turned 26.
Crazy.
And while there are complications with the salary cap portion of it for the Jags if they trade him, his cap number for the next few years, should a team trade for him, is $24 million, $35 million, and $47 million, respectively. So for that big deal he just got, the way the cap is laid out, it's a really attainable contract. Some complication for the Jags getting rid of him, but it's an attainable contract. So let's take a look at some opportunities to get to him and say, all right, if Trevor Lawrence goes somewhere this season, we'll rank a landing spot on a scale of 1 to 10. How about we'll start with Greg Rosenthal that hung out with us a few days ago, said maybe Trevor for Kyler, a trade? What do you think? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate that?
It's like a 2. It feels like a kind of even swap. I would take Trevor Lawrence over Kyler Murray really every single day, a week, and twice on Sundays. But that's not a move that really excites me. I don't think that Trevor Lawrence would be significantly better in Arizona. I love that for Marvin Harrison Jr., though. I don't think that Kyler Murray would be significantly better in Jacksonville, nor do I think that these teams would be significantly better off with that swap. And there's just a lot of salary cap complications that would come from it. I think that the salary cap headache that would come from it would far outweigh the benefits of this move. So I don't know if I love this.
No, it's a 1 for the Jags. I'm out on Kyler Murray going to the Jags and having success. Maybe an 8 for the Cardinals, though, because they'd get a quarterback. It's like a 1 for Trevor Lawrence, though, too. He's going to another dysfunctional situation. Now that I've said that, I'll completely be a hypocrite, though, and we'll give you another team. How about Trevor Lawrence to my beloved Raiders? Admitting, again, complications, Geno Smith costs a lot of money. So I understand that there are complications to this. But if we're just taking hypothetical Trevor Lawrence to the Raiders, that's a 10, Caroline. That's a 10 out of 10 out of 10, because I don't believe this year that anybody's going to be worse at the end of the year than the Saints and the Jets. I think they're going to stand out to be two of the worst teams, maybe the Titans. But those two teams both need quarterbacks. So all of a sudden you're going to be coming in for the Raiders and saying, all right, would you rather have the third best quarterback in this year's draft or 26-year-old Trevor Lawrence? I'd take Trevor Lawrence out of that all day, every day. yes, that Trevor Lawrence hasn't been who we think Trevor Lawrence is going to be, but man, at some point, if you're going to have to take a stab at a quarterback, taking a stab at a 26-year-old quarterback that frankly has more talent than Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones does, now you just got to find the right coach to help him. That's a 10 out of 10. I would be happy. I'd be excited. I might even go buy a Trevor Lawrence jersey if it happened.
Oh, wow. Are you going to grow your hair out like Trevor Lawrence?
No.
That
Trevor's
nice.
going to shave. No, Trevor's going to shave his head and go full. Maybe he'll get the Mark
he's
Davis.
He's going to go full Fitz.
He's going to go Mark Davis. He's
now,
just going to go.
That is a haircut that nobody in America should ever have. Just put a bowl on top of your head. Just snip, 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 snip. I would love this for the Raiders. Ultimately, Fitz, I defer to you. This is your team. You love this team. And I will never tell a fan how to fan or that the fan is fanning too hard or not fanning enough. So I do love this move. But my question for you would be, since I am deferring to you, who's your coach? It's great and all if you want to make a move for Trevor Lawrence. And if you want to, move mountains for Trevor Lawrence, I think that you would be drastically upgrading the quarterback position. But if you don't have a coach that you trust, and if you don't have a coach that can, help Trevor Lawrence work out some of the bugaboos he's been facing over the last couple of years in Jacksonville, then what's the point?
Yeah, well, you're right. And that comes back to my constant belief that at the end of this season, everybody's going to have to look around and say, I get what you were going for, but it didn't work. I'm not doing a reclamation project with Pete Carroll. I just don't think the timelines match up. I'm not bringing Chip Kelly back if Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly can't get on the same page. I think the most likely solution here is that absolutely everybody gets dumped and you start over yet again. And this is where it's like, how many coaches can you pay that aren't on the payroll anymore? I don't care. That's Mark Davis's money, not mine. I don't give a damn. At this point, Chip Kelly that you see right there makes $6 million as the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. For what? That offense has not been imaginative or creative or any sort of anything, and it's made everybody look worse. Pete Carroll is supposed to be competitive. This team has been competitive, but they suck. So at some point, if I got to get if bringing Trevor Lawrence in means I got to make changes at the coaching position, I'm happy to fire everybody if it means I can figure out a quarterback. I'll take a quarterback over 52 coaches any day of the week, as long as that quarterback brings with him somebody that can help get the most of them. Speaking of dysfunction, what about the Browns? Trevor Lawrence to the Browns. What do you think?
That's like a 9. I would love this for the Cleveland Browns because what it would give them is stability at the quarterback position. When was the last time the Browns had stability at the quarterback position? What Trevor Lawrence can do is come in and give you just enough. You know that he would be your guy for the next 5+ years. Because do any of us have an idea of who the guy is going to be in Cleveland next year, much less the next 5+? So I would love this for Cleveland. The reason why it's not a 10 is because I don't think that you can plug Trevor Lawrence in and Cleveland would be an automatic contender. I think the Browns would still be probably a draft away from being a legitimate contender. Bring in, the top receiver in the draft, assuming that the Browns would probably have a top 5 pick, which I think is a fair assumption. Sorry, Mike Goldfarb, producer, Cleveland Brown fan. But I think you would need to bring in, a stretch the field, speedy wide receiver to add at least some semblance of, a next level in this passing game. But you have a couple of young running backs that you feel really great about. You have 2 tight ends in Harold Fannin and David Njoku that you feel great about. You have one of the best defensive players on the planet in Myles Garrett. You have a really solid defense. So I would love this for Cleveland. Add stability to the most important position in sports in an area where the Cleveland Browns have not been stable for a very long time.
I just want to take this moment and remind anybody that hasn't looked in a minute, the Cleveland Browns cap hit number next year for Deshaun Watson, cap hit, is $80.71 million, according to Over the Cap and according to Spot Track. $80.71 million. The good news is if you cut him post June 1st, it's the same exact number. Like I don't know how all of that. I'm not smart enough to figure out how they're going to work around an $80 million cap number next year for Deshaun Watson. If they're going to bring in Trevor Lawrence, my only ask is, look, it'd be a 10. It'd be a 10 for the Browns. If you're going to do that, though, just get rid of Deshaun, get rid of Gabriel, get rid of Shador, get rid of everybody. Just completely clean house and be like, yep, we're taking everything out. Like, there's a point where sometimes you just look around and you're like, burn it to the ground. That is what you would have to do there to make it make sense. One more. What about this? I say, Trevor Lawrence, Pittsburgh Steelers. What say you?
10. Love it. 10. 100%, absolutely. Get out of the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. Get out of the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Like, no more of these old, past their prime quarterbacks who are, below average at best. Be done with that. Have a quarterback of the future. Have a quarterback that you can build around. No more of these putting band-aids on things and trying to just push your chips into the middle for 1 year and try and get into the playoffs for that 1 year. No, find some consistency at that position. Find a guy that you can build around, because the Steelers have good pieces. They just can't put them together. So I think if you have that one, benchmark foundational piece at the quarterback position, building around that quarterback makes everything so much easier. Again, they need some skill position players. They would need better receivers to help Trevor Lawrence out, but stability at that position and giving Trevor Lawrence stability with Mike Tomlin, I think would be big.
We are still so early in the NFL season, if it doesn't feel like it. It's a reminder that if the draft were today, the Steelers would have the 20th pick in the first round. What quarterback are you getting with the 20th pick in the first round when the teams ahead of you are quarterback starved, and there are so many of them? Again, I will remind everybody that right now the second pick in the draft belongs to New Orleans. The fourth pick belongs to Cleveland, and I don't know that we know that Cleveland's out of the quarterback market. The fifth pick belongs to the Jets. The sixth pick to the Vegas. Like, the number of quarterback needy teams, the Steelers don't have a solution that will get them to a quarterback in this year's draft, and they don't have a long-term solution at the position at all. So this move would get a $3,327,330,000 for me on a scale of 1 to 10, because it's an absolute perfect way to address the quarterback position in a way that otherwise you never could have. Like, there's just no other viable solution coming down the pipeline. I don't know if Tomlin's even going to be the coach next year. Things are going to go so off the rails, I think, the rest of this season for Pittsburgh. And if that's the case and you're bringing in a new coach, the one thing I don't want to do for an organization that absolutely is the beacon of light when it comes to stability, I don't want to start a new coach with the franchise that has no quarterback. If I can get Trevor Lawrence, my God, that's not a win. That's a home run. If I could get Trevor Lawrence in Pittsburgh, that's absolutely epic. Now, if I'm the Jags, there's zero chance that I'm sending Trevor Lawrence anywhere in the AFC. If I can avoid sending him to the AFC, if I can do anything to get him the hell out of the conference, I absolutely will. But, man, if there's a way that gets him over to the Steelers, that changes the way we feel about the entire Steelers process for the next several years moving forward. Even if Tomlin is there, they would actually have a quarterback.
Yeah, right. And that's why I would love that for them. I just some stability and consistency at that position. But my question here with the Jags is, let's not forget the Jags traded away their 2026 first round pick for Travis Hunter, who is out for the season. Unfortunately, that's some news that we heard yesterday. So you don't have a 2026 first rounder. Now, what trading Trevor Lawrence would do is give you probably some of those picks back. I don't think you get a first rounder for Trevor Lawrence, but you'd get picks. So if we're going to make the question of how do the Steelers find their next quarterback, which I think the Steelers are in a really rough position of low enough that you're not going to sniff a high enough pick to draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft, but you're also not good enough to make any sort of splashes in the playoffs. Like, they've just been in this mucky middle for so long. So if we're going to ask a very fair question by you, how do the Steelers find their next quarterback? Well, if the Jags trade away Trevor Lawrence, who's quarterbacking for the Jags?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's their path
whoever they,
to their franchise
you're right.
quarterback?
You're right. I don't have a solution for the Jags. I'm just trying to figure out a solution for Trevor Lawrence. That issue one, we'll figure out the Jags, and then we'll go from there.